and welcome to True Faith Presents the Charlotte Show. True Faith, any questions? April the 30th, 2021. Thank you very much for joining us. If you've chosen to spend your evening with us instead of at the pub, we're very grateful. If you're watching this after with a raging hangover, we'll try and offer some kind of respite a little bit. I'm joined tonight by Si and Ben. Thank you as well, both for joining me this evening.
Good evening, Charlotte.
Thanks for having a shot.
You're welcome. Am I a bit stop-starty? Or am I fine?
No, we're just being really slow to react.
Oh no, I think my link's bad. Okay, well we'll crack on, and if it's annoying me too much, I'll take myself out and come back, and you two can just hold the fort. All right. So it's another week. Newcastle look kind of safe. We're doing a True Faith Any Questions, which is something that we do periodically, where you just ask us any questions, and it can be any questions. So people watching, if you just, want to know who our favorite Flintstone is, ask the question. But for now, we'll crack on with ones we've got. Thanks, Keith Whitfield says it looks okay from here. I've closed one of my high energy apps and it seems to have fixed itself, so that's good. I'm very technical. Okay. Kieran Shanahan, who's one of our patrons, said on Patreon, what will the atmosphere inside the ground be like at home to Sheffield United, assuming results stay decent? And then there's another question, which I actually tried to cut off and put into a different question, but I'm rubbish and I didn't. Si, what do you think? Do you think it'll be a good atmosphere, bad atmosphere, people just happy to be back?
Yeah, assuming results stay decent. There's a few things. I don't think there'll be any kind of the reaction people are hoping for. And by hoping for, I mean that Bruce will get what he's deserved for 2 years now, which would be a terrible reception. I think because we're safe now, we're in a decent bit of form, and if that form continues to Sheffield United and we've got fans in the stadium, then it wouldn't be the right time to make that point. I think people will just enjoy being back in the ground. It'll feel a bit more normal, and I'll be the same, to be fair. If I was lucky enough to go to that game, I would just enjoy the occasion and save the frustration for another day. Like it just won't be the time. And I think that probably would carry into the start of next season. If we finish the season strongly, and I don't think we will, but if we do, then there will be a small amount of grace that Bruce and the team would have to start next season well. Again, I think if we get to August and we've got more fans in stadiums, if not all, again, first game of the season, more people probably going to the match for the first time in well over a year. So I think people would just be too buzzed about that to let any amount of Newcastle being terrible spoil that day. So I think, again, we might not see the reaction people have expected that Bruce deserves and would have had by now until maybe a few games in, which gives him a bit of time to, if he wins the first 2 games of next season, then that might not ever happen. So he's got a little bit of grace, which I find interesting and frustrating because it's not what I want.
Yeah. But he did start the season reasonably. I'm just going to mute you, Si, because I think I'm getting an echo from you. He did start the season reasonably strongly this season, but torpedoed it pretty quickly. So it could be that it's just a bit of a delayed onset of vitriol rather than straight away. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, Si makes a good point. I mean, I think the other thing is I think the vocal people that would probably want to go in and sort of give him a bit of stick probably won't be that eager to go back to the game. The whole point is that obviously it's been a really tough watch a lot of the games this season, and with it being a select few, I'm not sure that people are necessarily gonna want to go and waste their afternoon watching more terrible football. It's interesting as well though, because we've seen in the past, like under previous managers, when there's been that kind of expectation of a sort of a really nasty atmosphere or sort of kind of a show of sort of disapproval, I guess, to managers. Like it never really quite matches what we're anticipating. I think in the past it's kind of been a quiet sort of or a vocal minority that have kind of have sort of displayed that. Whereas I think a lot of the ground for various different reasons probably just don't get out after people. So I think there's going to be an element of that where you'll have a lot of those people in the ground as well that just don't go at the match and get on people when they really should. So there's elements of that, and then everything Si said, I think, as you say, I'm fully expecting. I mean, we did a podcast, me, Alex, and Norman the other day, basically just sort of how we project the rest of the season to go in. They kind of had quite a sort of a better finish of the season in terms of they were expecting more points to be accumulated. I'm fully expecting us to have lost all the games going into that Arsenal game. So kind of what Si was saying, I think we'll be in a position where we might still need points on the board. And because of that, I think people will probably go into that Sheffield game because it's that really out of the games we've got left, that is the biggest game we've got. I think if we beat Sheffield, that's it, done and dusted, if it isn't already. But I think it's one of those where people will realise the sort of importance of getting behind the team in that game, and I think that'll have an impact as well.
I also just think like being back is just going to be so exciting that people aren't going to be focused on that any kind of negativity. I just think, like, personally, I don't particularly want Steve Bruce here any longer, even if we've picked up points or whatever. But if I was lucky enough to go to that game, I would just be so buzzing to like be at the ground, even if it's, only a tiny fraction. I'd just be so excited to be back there. So that would
100%,
probably...
Yeah, I think that'll be the feeling in the majority of people who get to go to these games, is that it's just, we're back at the football. It's not the time.
For the first 5 minutes of the game, and then when we're actually the kick-off and what's on in front of where that'll quickly dissipate. Yeah. And
if we're 2-0 down to Sheffield United by half time, there could be 45 minutes where it gets a bit hairy.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. Kieran, who asked this question, asked another one. It's really chopped up, and I apologize to people who are viewing this. I'll read it out as well. Bigger picture start of next season with supporters wanting Bruce out. Do you think it'll be impossible? We kind of answered that. Si kind of answered that with the sort of, well, if we finish this season okay, and then we start next season okay, I don't think it'll be quite as aggressively like anti-Bruce in the stadium as you might think it would be.
He has to make the absolute most of those first couple of games where people will be buzzing to go to the match. People will have crammed in the pubs. People will be, it'll be like your kind of 5:30 kickoffs. You're hoping for a 5:30 kickoff where everyone gets a good few hours to have some drinks, but people will be up for it. People will be buzzing, and he's got to use that to his advantage, because if he can get a result, that buzz will carry into the next game, and people will hold back the anger. And it won't last long, because he hasn't bought much goodwill. And I think as soon as the form turns around, Ben's right, that's it. It'll snap. But if he can get off to a good start next season, and to do that, we have to finish this season well. If he gets off to a good start, then he might get away with it for a bit longer. Which
hang on, in what alternate reality are we like assuming Steve Bruce has got any control over the situation? We've seen the team and how they're playing for the last two seasons basically, and I've not seen anything. And still up to this point, he's reliant on the star players turning up and winning them games at the minute. He's not really. I know we've kind of he got a bit of credit last week, but I'm still very dubious that he's actually solved any of the problems so far. So really, I don't see the situation where we're going to finish well and start season well next year. And I think even if we did, there's still going to be a lot of people that have watched with for the last 2 years, and it's not. That's the thing. It's not necessarily just about Bruce. It's the fact that like we know we could be better, and it goes bigger than Bruce, obviously. But Bruce has done nothing in the 2 years up to this point to give any evidence really that we're progressing as a club. I've not seen it, other than we've bought some good players, which how much he has to do with, I don't know. There's all. I mean, he seems to have different views on it every other week. How much he's actually been involved with things, but it's not anything. There's nothing really that I can put my sort of finger on to say Steve Bruce has had a massive impact on this and it's working. So I think there's a lot of people that the bridge is already burnt and there's nothing he can do to turn that around.
I'm just going to sort of caveat what I said. Yes, what I'm saying is, yeah, you're right. He will never ever prove to me that he's good enough manager for that job. But football fans are fickle. We can all admit that. And if we get off to a good start next season, I will also probably be willing to withhold the vitriol and anger for a bit, if nothing more. In my head, I still don't think he's good enough, even if we get off to a good start. And if we get off to a good start, like you, Ben, I put it down to the fact that we've actually got better players than anyone gives us credit. And we should be...
Sorry, I'm getting overexcited. You're assuming after the summer that we've still got those players? I don't think so.
There is that as well. But yeah, I would say that it's a results business, as Bruce and some of his media pals have always said. So if he has some good results, and by he, I probably mean the players more than I mean he, and we're sat, in the top 8 as the start of the season after a couple of games, then you can't really get at him as much as I would like to until the inevitable does happen, when he loses the plot again once he has a couple of injuries or whatever it may be, or he just fancies playing ridiculous formations and continuing to play all his players out of position.
Yeah, that is his MO, isn't it? I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Si. That was very rude of me. I don't think we're going to start next season with ASM on the books. Like, I just can't see it. I don't think we'll start next season with, Joe Willock's probably, we're not going to buy him, are we? Like, those are 2 of our very key players. Will we still have Miggy? Don't know about that either. Like, I worry about the summer.
Yeah, I agree. Maximan could probably do with getting another full season of being fit and playing football for more than like the 26 odd games he's had. I don't think Miggy's happy. I think he's quite likely to leave. And to be fair, Bruce doesn't seem to be that bothered about him, and
he doesn't know what to do with him still.
He probably needs to sell to buy, so he'd be looking at someone like Miggy thinking, well, that might be a chance to get some cash in to spend. Willock, the only way we get Willock is if they let us loan him for another year, because there's no way we're forking out the cash. And I don't think Arsenal maybe will want to let him go permanently yet. They might want to just wait and see how he gets on. So we might be able to loan him for another year if that's what Arsenal want to do. But yeah, it's a very good point, Charlotte. We can only start next season well if we keep this squad together, and that's a big if. Because a lot of these players were very, very unhappy a few weeks ago, and whilst it's turned around a little bit, you've got to wonder if even Maximan, I suppose, but if an offer comes along, what are they getting out of staying at Newcastle for another year under Steve Bruce? Absolutely nothing. So if by the end of the season Maximan's stock is high, Miggy's stock is reasonably high, they're going to want to take advantage of that, as are their agents, which is probably more important.
Yeah. So you said before that he could ASM, for example, could probably do with another season, playing and being fit. Do you think that's Steve Bruce's grand plan of keeping his players injured halfway through the season so that they never get a full one? Could be.
I don't put anything past Steve Bruce. I don't know how his mind works.
That explains why all our best players have got injured, because he's like not letting them train. It's like they probably lock the facilities, like lock them out. It's like, naps, you're not getting in, lads. There's no way you are getting fitter where you might actually start to like be taken seriously as a professional footballer and be bought up by somebody else.
Exactly.
This is an amateur operation we're running here. So
it makes perfect sense. All right, let's have a look. We have this question, which I will bring in from Paul M. Exactly how stupid do you have to be to beat dogs to fireworks display? So, for those of you who didn't see this, this is a quote from the press conference today, where Steve Bruce was talking about how the evils of social media, and he was saying that he didn't know it was on there, and his son was like, "Oh, you should see what they say about you," and he was like, "Wow, I just didn't know." But then on the other hand, it helped him find his dog when he ran away from a fireworks display, so it is quite good. And a lot of people are asking, "Why did you take your dog to a fireworks display, mate?" Like, quite bad.
He
He's a
can't
dog
even
abuser.
answer. He can't even answer a non-football question without just making an absolute fool of himself, can he?
The thing is, I think I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here and say he didn't take his dog to a fireworks display, but there was one and his dog ran away, right? That's got to be it. Nobody, if I saw someone with a dog at a fireworks display, I'd be like, take your dog home. Like, your dog shouldn't be here.
But he's a bit of an idiot, and he seems to be oblivious to what's going on around him. I can imagine him just not realizing that the dog is sitting there terrified as he takes in explosions with big lights.
I can imagine him being like, "It's fireworks night, is it? All right." Like, just like not even realizing that, just taking the dog for a walk.
He's probably not even meant to take the dog with him. He's probably like walking out the house. He's managed to get his foot hooked in the dog's teeth. And then this poor dog's been dragged along, and he's just like strolling along, like, "Oh, lovely fireworks." And there's this poor dog trying to get away.
He sees his pals at the fireworks display. Mark Hughes, let's say, "Hi, Mark. Steve, what's that in your hand?" It's a rope. Is there not meant to be a dog on the end of that? Oh, hi. Oh, no.
Well, it's a rope. That's amazing. I also, from that quote, like, that wasn't even the main thing about that quote that got me.
No.
The thing that got me was like Alex Bruce being like, "You should see what they say about you," and then being like, I've got all the screenshots of people being really horrible about my dad. I'm just gonna show him.
I've been waiting for you to bring this up, Dad. Look, like.
I've got your best coach in the world Moonpig card ready with all the images.
It's so horrible. Like, if my dad was like, "Are they talking about me on social media?" I'd be like, "Nope, not much. Just like dafties. Don't pay attention to it."
No, everyone loves you. It's all positive, Dad.
They love it when you talk about food in press conferences. Keep doing that. I just thought it was like really harsh, but very funny. So that's good.
Again, I find it incredible. This is a serious point that he makes, a really serious situation, which is about online abuse and in particular racial abuse. Makes it all about him again. Like, that's not what the question was, Steve. It's just making the whole thing like, well, you should see what I get. Like, it's not about you, Steve, and that wasn't the time to bring that up. So you're quite lucky that you made the ridiculous dog comment, and that's what people have pounced on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and Paul agrees with you there. That is the bigger picture. True Faith, I think, is participating in the blackout over social media over the weekend, as are loads of fan accounts and official accounts and stuff like that. You're right. It was a big question about a big issue, and probably fan accounts and accounts going quiet isn't even nearly enough to sort of combat this. But if it starts a conversation, that's important, but not if the conversation becomes about Steve Bruce's dog running away, because that's not the conversation anyone needs to be having. No. Lee Foster saying Alex Bruce has zero memory left on his phone, just full of screenshots. Let's have a look back to some of the questions we got in. Adam Morrison from Patreon said, "What have been your favourite seasons as Newcastle fans and why?" Guessing not this one. Well, no, not this one. I really like the first Championship season. I went to quite a lot of those games at home, and that was quite good. And I was at the one where we went back up, and that we were crowned champions, I believe. That was a good season. Sorry, I just seen Uncle D saying I thought the NUFC was supporting. Yes, we are. This is a True Faith podcast and a podcast, so it's fine. Yes. What were your favourite seasons, Si?
I've probably got two. The 02-03 season is an easy one for me to pick because it was the best that I was old enough to enjoy. So I was only 7 in kind of the Keegan days, and whilst I remember supporting Newcastle and having a Shearer 9 shirt, I don't really remember the games or being that engaged with it because I was just a bit too young. 02-03, I was 14, 15, and we were just so good, and it was my first season ticket that year, and I was at every home game for the first time in my life, and we won, I think, 15 out of 19 home games that season. Lost twice, drew twice. Like, it was just that good. Our home form was incredible. Lauren Robert, Nobby Solano. Like, I mean, we've relived this with Andy Griffin on the Patreon shows recently, and it sticks in my memory for obvious reasons. It's an easy one to pick, but I also have to say that the Benitez Championship season. Right, Ben?
Sorry, there wasn't just the audio, there was a cat behind Ben, so everyone got excited. Go on, Sam.
The Benitez Championship season was so enjoyable because of the turnaround and the buzz around the club. Like, everything was happy, everything was positive, from the results to the kind of every week doing the podcast and talking about it was fun and enjoyable. You wanted to just consume Newcastle media in every possible way. You read match reports, you just enjoyed every second of it, and some of us were even lucky enough to go and meet the manager. Like, that was just such an incredible year. So there's two easy ones, but for me, 02-03 probably pips it.
Yeah, I the second championship under Rafa, I watched a lot of games, but didn't go to many. But I've heard you guys talking about how much fun that was and how brilliant it was, and just, like you say, just wanted to make and consume stuff about it. I wish I'd sort of got involved a bit earlier, but yeah, I can totally see that one. What about you, Ben?
I don't know. I mean, just to caveat that, there was points in that season that it was a long season that had its dull moments as well. I probably don't have the rose-tinted glass. I mean, I suppose looking back, obviously, we won the league and it was a great finish to the season, and there was a lot of good moments in it. But I do remember there being a lot of naff rubbish games as well. It's a tough one because I wouldn't say there's been any. I mean, that suggests that we had a good full season. I mean, I suppose one of the fun ones was the party when we got 5th, with obviously because we were so good, and I can't remember, I'm rubbish with season dates, but you know which one I'm talking about.
11-12.
11-12 was it? Yeah. So yeah, just I think that was a brilliant season because we had some brilliant wins at home, and we played some really good football, and there was a lot of excitement about the potential. I mean, we were in with a good shout of Champions League football, so that was a great season to sort of be involved in. We had a great team at the time. There's been other seasons where we've, like, the last 2 Rafa seasons when we finished the season so well. I mean, I wouldn't say I love those seasons because obviously results were really poor for sort of the first half of the season, but you could see things turning around, and obviously we finished both those seasons strongly, and there was a lot of enjoyment in that. Obviously, personally as well, you have the games that you get to go away. I mean, just the Bournemouth trip, for example, was such a fun weekend like that in itself. The 2-2 draw when Richie scored last minute a couple of seasons ago. Like, obviously you can't pin down a season just to that one moment, but at the same time, that was such a fun trip that it's got fond memories. So it's a tough one. I would probably go with the season we finished 5th is the best one.
Yeah, that was a brilliant one as well, to be fair. And again, some of the results and players we had at the time just made it so enjoyable. Like Demba Ba first half of the season, followed by Cisse second half of the season. Like, it was just so good to watch, and some of the best away games I've been to that year. I suppose as a travelling fan, I would have to also throw in the following season because it was the only time in my adult life we've been in Europe. So the 3 European trips I went on were the 100% best time of my life. So, but you couldn't call that season the best season because we were largely terrible. So yes, and fair point, Ben, about the championship season, because I agree with you in as much as I would never want another 46-game league campaign. I really don't want us to get relegated and have to do that again, because it is a long haul. And yeah, there were some good moments, but I just think there was, even when the results weren't great or the football was hard to endure at times. It just felt like it was going somewhere, and it was always positive and happy. Whereas if it happened again, it just wouldn't be that way. So yeah, I'm fond of that season, but I think the easy ones are Champions League football and playing well.
But I also think like the question is favorite season, and it doesn't mean it has to have been like peaks. It's like it's a deeply personal question, and it can be because of moments like Bournemouth. That was a great weekend. You had a good time. The football was fun and a bit mad, and it was good. So I get it. Like if you hit enough of those over a season, that's going to be one of your favorite seasons. That makes sense to me. Joseph Gardner, hi Joe, over in Oregon, who's written his first piece in the new fanzine. So if you haven't ordered that, you should order it. It's out now. I'll be a Debbie Downer. What's your least favorite season? I assume the relegation seasons are at the top of the list, but any others where we underachieved? I haven't enjoyed this season particularly. But least favorite, it's hard. Lee straight away went in the first Joe Kinnear season for me. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think. I mean, he said it there. He said other ones, but I think the worst one I remember was that McLaren relegation season.
Yeah.
Obviously, it finished on a high with Rafa coming in, and obviously everything went after that. But that was such like how we got relegated with that team is still baffles us. Like that wasn't a team that should have been anywhere near danger. We had enough good players in that team to be better than some of the others. So that and just some of the performances that season were an absolute disgrace. But yeah, I think you have to give a special mention to the Bruce era. For the last two seasons have just been awful to watch. Obviously, we haven't been in the grounds for this season yet, so we've kind of not. I don't know. They probably I've not had to waste hours of my time every Saturday or whatever trudging down to the ground to go and watch that. So that probably lessens it a bit. But yeah, it's just I think you have to say like this has been pretty awful football to watch. There's not been too many high points. So yeah, I think you've got to. It's between those two, the McLaren season or these last two for Bruce.
Yeah, and I think that the McLaren thing is a good point. Like, how did that team go down? That is baffling. The thing that's been so depressing about these two seasons is we watched a well-conditioned, well-drilled team. We've literally watched them get so much worse. And you can see the life being sapped out of these players. I know that's very dramatic, but that's kind of how it feels. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons it's been so bad, because football's been bad, but it didn't have to be. And you can see all this skill and stuff going away. That's been depressing.
Yeah, you can't look back past the last two seasons. I agree with the Joe Kinnear one was brutal. It was so brutal. There were so many down moments, and it never really turned a corner. But watching Bruce come in after the hope and joy of having Benitez and a team that was growing and improving, and whilst there was some frustrating moments and the transfer windows and obviously knowing that the manager was unhappy and that eventually this was going to happen, nothing prepared me for how brutal the transformation to watching Bruce and realising that Newcastle was going nowhere. I've never been less engaged with Newcastle than I have been the last 2 years, and we've been saved, as you say, Ben, from having to watch the match, which is something I never thought I'd have to say, but I'm glad we haven't have to go to watch Newcastle play in the last year, which is crap. But yeah, every season that's been mentioned there, it's been awful, and there's been others as well. Like Newcastle is a bad thing for your health.
Yeah, your Bruce comments segue nicely into this question from George Colkin, who said, "How many pieces will Si's head shatter into when Steve Bruce signs a new 9-year contract this summer?"
It's got to be 9 for each season, isn't it?
Yeah. Just
Something like that. I'm really hoping.
Use the shattered piece to stab yourself in the heart with.
You've answered it for me, Ben. Yeah, I hope you're not being serious, George. I hope this isn't something
maybe
you've
George
heard
has got an
might be on the
inside
cards.
scoop.
Yeah, don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Imagine. Oh my god. How long did we sign Pardew for? It was something like that, wasn't it?
You got an 8-year contract.
8 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh god.
Which I think it just expired last summer. Like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
how mad
it was last summer. Somebody had done like a Twitter account, which is like, is Pardew's contract over yet? Nope. Nope. But he's in Bulgaria now, so.
If that happened, I would genuinely have to get another hobby. I'd have to just start supporting a different sport, and I don't know. I'd become a season ticket holder for Durham cricket or something. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't live for that.
What hobby would you get if it wasn't a sport? What would you get into heavily if you didn't have football and it wasn't watching another sport?
That is an on-the-spot question. I don't know.
Sticking your head in a wood chipper.
Yeah. I've just got a dog this year. I'd probably just get more dogs and do loads of walking.
Get really heavy
it's got to be better than that.
I think I would get I really love cycling. I think I'd get heavy into cycling and bits from my bike and long cycles and shit like that. Ben, what would your hobby be if it wasn't gaming? You like gaming, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a big gaming fan. I don't know. I mean, I watched a lot of other sports as well, so I'd just put more time into those, I think.
Keith Whitfield says, is drinking a hobby? I guess it can be. Please, hobby responsibly. Let's have a look at a couple of... Oh, okay. This is a question, again, from our patron, Adam. Will the Premier League bottle it when it comes to sanctions against the greedy six? Are even big fines just a cop-out compared to meaningful punishment consistent with previous club misdemeanors? From Adam. Sai, will they bottle it?
Probably, because the whole reason this even happened is because the big six kind of have a lot of bargaining chips already, and if they take it too far, they'll just keep doing this, or just they can fight back, given the position they have and the finances that are involved. I think a large fine is probably what will happen, because by definition, most of the big six, excluding Spurs, can probably afford to just take on a big fine, and they'll just take that as a slap on the wrist and just crack on and plan the next way to do it that might work. I think there'll be some sort of compromise in the middle where they get something, what they want, and I very much doubt there'll be the kind of punishment we're hoping for, which would be some sort of point or competition related restrictions. I don't know. Obviously, it shouldn't happen now. I think a reasonable solution for me would be like a 10-point deduction for them all at the start of next season. It would make next season really interesting. But yeah, I agree with Adam. I don't think there'll be any such strong measures.
I like that idea. So not this season, but starting them off next season on a negative. And I think that would be really interesting. Ben, what do you think will happen, and what would you like to see happen?
They will bottle it, and as the question said, and the second part of it was, will the fines be enough? Whatever. What was the question again? Sorry. Can you put it back up?
That's all right. I can whack it back on the screen. Hang on.
Big fines just to cop out. Yeah.
Out.
Yes, yeah, they are. So you are spot on. I mean, I think the problem is that, I mean, the fines thing, money isn't the issue here. I mean, obviously they want a bigger share, but the problem is really they've got the power at the minute, in that I would imagine they've got to a position where they're already taking a lion's share or a bigger share of sort of the TV funding and things like that, and they've just somehow managed to talk the other sides into agreeing to that. So they've already got an unequal sort of power share, I would say, at the minute. And unfortunately, I don't think, even though the other 14 clubs have kind of come out jointly and tried to take a stand against it, the reality is I think I don't think they're going to. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to take a harsh stance, because I think the reality is that all the TV contract, the billions of money, the sort of pounds coming into the game for the TV. When you look at what it's for, it's because all the TV companies and with the sort of Middle Eastern and sort of Asian markets and things like that, they all want to see the top 6 teams playing every week. So those teams always get put on at sort of the times, and they the irony of it is that they complain about being in these slots all the time, but that's why they get all the money, because they're on all the time. So the problem is if you were to kind of, and I hope it happens. I don't think they should have allowed them to take the lion's share just because they're on. What's that got to do with it? It's everyone should be starting in a level field in terms of the distribution of money and things like that. And that's why we've got this kind of two-tiered league table system. So I just think I can't see how they're gonna be able to do anything that'll have any sort of lasting impact on them. You said about a 10-point deduction next season, Si. The reality is those teams will all finish way more than 10 points ahead of the teams below anyway. So it's not really going to make any difference. If you wanted to try and shake things up to make it sort of to punish them, it's going to have to be. I mean, you look at the league table at the minute. Okay, it's quite close. But I think it's going to have to be things like European expulsion, and because that'll hit them in the pockets, and also it'll give other teams opportunities to catch up a bit as well, I think. So it's got to be something like that. It's actually going to have a detriment to them, not just now, but going forward as well. So to me, I think the things where they're talking about expelling them from Europe for a couple of seasons, things like that, or if it is points deductions, it's got to be like a big points deduction to actually kind of hit them and actually hurt them. Because the reality is I think everything that's being talked about as a possible option isn't really going to have any impact, and it'll be absorbed and they'll just go on as they are now, basically with a slap on the wrist. It needs to be something like we talked about this the other day. It needs to be a deterrent, something that'll stop them doing it again. And for that to be the case, it has to be something like really, really severe against them.
Well, Lee Foster's come up with an absolutely foolproof plan. Force each of the top 6 to have one season with Bruce in the dugout. Their CEOs would never answer their phones to Perez again.
all of their tourist fans would just support other clubs. They'd be done. They'd have no market anymore.
That is amazing. I'd love to see that happen. For all the people sitting in studios doing their punditry saying that Steve Bruce is a brilliant manager, I'd like to see them. I'd like to see their reaction if that happened. We had another question. Actually, we had a question from Michael Hurst. We had a few. This is a non-NUFC question. What are your predictions for England at the Euros? I'm gonna sort of broaden the question slightly into: Are you excited about the Euros this summer? Were you disappointed they were off last summer? Do you care at all, Si?
I'll admit I'm not that bothered about international football, but I will always get myself into it at the time of an international tournament. You know, qualifiers and even the Nations League were largely uninteresting to me. I'd rarely watch an England friendly or qualifier. That said, the World Cup last time round was really enjoyable, and we got some pretty good days out of it without actually, on reflection, winning any good games of football. You know, we got there just by having a good draw, a bit like Bruce in the cup. And then as soon as you played anyone good, we just lost. But I very much look forward to the prospect of just watching what an international tournament has that no other kind of football does, is the opportunity for like every fan in a city to gather in one place and just be absolutely buzzed for the match. And whether that's at Times Square or just any pub, there's always a good crowd and there's always a really good atmosphere while there's an England game on. So I look forward to that. I thought the World Cup last time on was really good for that. I thought every match day was really enjoyable. So I do look forward to that. And because of the fact that there won't be, no one's had the opportunity to do that for over a year, it's going to be pretty special. So I'm excited for that. My predictions for England are probably the same. As soon as we play good teams, we'll be out.
Yeah, I am. I'm with you. Like for me, because I enjoy it, but I'm not super invested in like England like winning. I'll take that off the screen in a minute. It's just Nick being Nick reminiscing about the Sunderland fan who got caught short in Trafalgar Square on the screen for those of you who aren't watching. Yeah, it feels to me like lower stakes watching it. It's just more enjoyable sometimes than like when you're watching Steve Bruce's Newcastle United and you're just despairing. Like, I don't feel like my day is as disrupted if England don't win. Like, I'd rather they did, but it doesn't feel as like gutting or like that was awful. And it's always the summer and it's always like nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Ben, do you think England will do well?
I do. I think I'm a big like England fan, so I've been to most of the last few Euros, so it would have been a shame not to be able to go to this one. But obviously, at least we'll get to watch it, and it's going ahead. Yeah, I think when you look at the sort of the youth coming through now, we've got a brilliant team, and there's not many when I look at the other sort of European sort of challenges. Basically, I don't think there's many teams that I would say I would take in past tournaments. You would always say, oh, there's much better teams. I mean, you had the Spains and Germanys, and even the France team at the minute are really, really good. But I think we're catching up. I mean, you just have to look at sort of the performances from some of our England players in the last couple of years. So, I mean, look at Phil Foden the other night. Phil Foden looks like an unbelievable player, and hopefully he's only going to get better. And he's the type of generational talent that England haven't had for a long time, that can literally just you don't expect him to sort of get stage fright or anything. And I just think give him the ball, he will skin everybody, and he looks that good that he's going to be unbelievable. You look at the likes of Grealish, if he's going to be fit, I think he's a brilliant player. We've actually got like capable footballers to take on the best teams, and then add in the fact that you've got Harry Kane, who's probably one of the best finishers in the world. The defence is obviously a big worry, and again, I think Southgate, has taken the team as far as he can take them, really. I think obviously you've got to give him credit for the World Cup run, and obviously we've got the semis. I think we should have got to the final that year, but I've no doubt we would have got battered off France like Croatia did, but we should have beaten that Croatia team. But I just think I don't really see Southgate. I think he's brilliant with the media, and he's done a lot to get a lot of favour back from the fans and sort of rebuild a bit of interest in the team. But I kind of think he would be better suited to. He's obviously very good with the logistics and stuff, and I think the management side he's brilliant at. But it's the actual in-game management, I think, is where he struggles, and actual sort of the setting the team up to go out and dominate other teams. I haven't really seen where sort of hit the heights that we should do. So that's kind of my worry. That's the only thing I think where we'll maybe fall down, is that I don't think Southgate is as good as some of his counterparts, and that might hurt us, especially with his insistence on playing a lot of defensive players. And I get that's a weakness, but like just playing, sort of forcing in as many centre midfielders and as many defenders in the team isn't the answer when we've got so much attacking talent. So yeah, I think that's kind of my concern, but I'm confident. I think England will get to the semis at least. That's excellent. I knew Ben would come through with a comprehensive answer about England, because I knew you actually didn't realise you'd gone to them the Euros before, but 28 was it 2016, was it France, or 2018? I can't even remember. Would have been 2016, wouldn't it? Yeah, 2016. Yeah. Again, I'm rubbish with seasons. Yeah, 2016 we did France. That was good fun. And 2012 went to Ukraine as well. That was good. Oh, cool. Good luck as well. Me and Dodsey. I bet that was fun. We have done 44 minutes, which is crazy. The time has flown. We'll do a couple more questions, and then we'll let everybody do their evenings. There was one funny one I saw earlier from Lee Foster about the actors. Oh yeah, that's a good question. All right, I'll scroll up. Of course, Michael, thanks for asking the question.
in the first place? More than happy to ask it. Let me see. We got one from Lee. And light-hearted question for you. If Hollywood were to make a film about this season and the takeover saga, who would you choose to play Bruce, Charnley, and Ashley? I'd like to see Christian Bale go full method for Bruce and like because he loves Christian Bale won't take a role unless he has to lose a significant amount of weight or put on a significant amount of weight. Well, it's probably like his normal weight right now, so you probably have to put on some weight. And Steve Bruce has a slightly off-center nose, and he'd have to have all of that done. And I would really like to see Christian Bale in that role. Ben?
I think that just on that, you can imagine Bale going for the full, how's the bacon, did you see it? I think he'd give it the real sort of Oscar touch.
Yeah, this is Bruce, him thinking the Academy's coming for him with this role. Yeah. I'm going to get it right. I love it. The only one I thought that would, so for Bruce, I think I'd have to Joe Pesci. I think would be a great fit. Kind of looks a little bit like him. Small sort of gangster films. That's amazing.
Charnley and Ashley is a tough one. I think what's he called? The guy that played Uncle Buck for Ashley. I can't think what he's called. I think he's passed away, unfortunately now.
I'll get you it.
What it's called. John Candy. John Candy.
Oh, John, of course, yeah.
John Candy.
Of course.
And for Charnley, I think it's just got to be someone bald. Vin Diesel. There you go.
Oh my God, you're gonna give Vin Diesel the role of Lee Charnley.
Big Vin, he can do it, I'm sure.
That's amazing.
He's done enough bad films, so I'm sure he'll be a fit.
Nick Halbert says that Bruce will be played by the pigeon woman from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Have a look at her. They're the same, man. They are. They do look very similar.
Yeah, he could also be played by, and then he's also no longer alive, but Robin Williams did an excellent portrayal of him in Mrs. Doubtfire, of course. But I would probably go. Anthony Hopkins has just won an Oscar, hasn't he, for his portrayal of a dementia sufferer? So that's close enough to Bruce, who seems to struggle to remember recent Newcastle results and/or how many games Maximan has played, etc. So there's a good actor for you.
But isn't Anthony Hopkins like nearly 90?
It's a similar age, yeah.
He could pull it off.
Well, yeah, he's an Oscar winner. He could pull off anything. I'm just thinking I guess nearly 90 is better than literally already dead, which is what a lot of these people are that we've cited today.
Charnley's a hard one, yeah. Like you're just looking for who's the guy from Little Britain? Matt Lucas. He would do for Charnley.
I could see what's his chops from The Long Good Friday? Bob Hoskins being Charnley.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins. Yeah. Good shout.
Like a little Cockney gangster. Maybe.
And yeah, Ashley, I don't know who played Jabba the Hutt. That's CGI. You would just CGI Ashley because you'd have to make him a big comical villain.
I love the idea of some bloke getting into the Jabba the Hutt costume. Go on, mate, get in there. Oh, brilliant! I love it. Si.
Right, that was a good question. That was a great question, Lee. Charnley by Lord Varys from Game of Thrones. Oh, the eunuch.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, great shout.
That's really good.
Proper little snake as well with these little spiders or sparrows or whatever they were. And that would be great.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were, but anything. Anyway.
No, sparrows is right. Great question. From Lee. Thank you, Lee. Anybody whack your comments in, or if you're watching this after, put it on the comments. I'm really interested now to see who would play who in this Hollywood dramatic remake of I want scenes of Mike Ashley crying by the fireplace that he once threw up in because it's not going right and things like that. It's really dramatic, Hans Zimmer music soaring over it. I think we could sell this. I think we could sell this idea. Here's a good one from Anthony Edmonds Foy, one of our long-standing patrons. Thank you for the question, Anthony. If Newcastle did their own Super League, who would you invite to join any 6 teams in the world? Who would you invite? And I'm going to go with, like, I'm going to veto the ones that were involved. So I've put that rule in, not Anthony. Ben, do you want to pick a couple?
Yeah, I think I'd get Dortmund in there. I think their fans are brilliant. That would be a good atmosphere, and they're a good team. I'd be happy to watch them most weeks. I think you'd want like a South American team in there, like a Boca Juniors or River Plate. I think again, the atmospheres for games would be unreal. I don't know, it's a tough one. I see a couple of people there. Club Bruges. I mean, we've already done.
Yeah, Bruges on previous merit, because that was such a good trip.
We've done that before.
Any team in Holland would be.
I was going to say something within the. I was going to say something with a ferry that you can get a ferry to.
Absolutely.
Crack.
I'd probably throw Roma in there just to be able to go and watch Newcastle play in Rome would be class. But yeah, you're part thinking about trips, part thinking about supporter bases. Yeah, you'd want a couple of South American teams in there. You'd want definitely Dortmund, maybe Ajax. But yeah, it's a good question. But there's just any club that weren't part of the Dick Six, you'd want to be part of it.
Marseille was their stadium's class. So that was one of the stadiums I went to when we went to France for the Euros, and the stadium's cool. I know we've obviously played them a few years back in the UEFA Cup semis, like, but that's like that's kind of mental fans. Like, it's a beautiful city on the South French coast. Like, really had a great night in Marseille. So that would be quite a cool trip and good one as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and say the full name, but the team from Reykjavik in Iceland, I would throw them in just because Iceland's cool, as are this football supporters there, and it would be another class trip.
Yeah, I'd kind of want to make it like a culinary journey of places like where I really like the food. Like, does Vietnam have a really good football team? We could whack in.
You can start one. Just invite them in. It's your Super League, so invite who you want. Just have like an under 14 boys club or something. Like.
Yeah. Well, that's within the parameters. I'm into it.
I mean, Arsenal were getting invited, so why not? It'll be that kind of standard. We need some Witten boys.
Excellent. Joseph Gardner says Millonarios Bogota, and that's obviously in Colombia. That sounds like a pretty mad away day. I would not like to see the state of people on the plane back.
I would not like to see the survival rate of that trip. Just like, there would be casualties, definitely.
God, definitely. Oh my God, great question. No, all right. Well, let's wrap it up there. We've been here with you for nearly an hour. Great questions, really, really enjoyable and really fun end there, I think. But before we do, we've got Arsenal this weekend. Ben, what's your prediction for the score?
I said on the pod the other day we'd get a batter, and I'll stand by that. I think we'll, even though they've just lost last night and they're not in great form, I think they'll beat us.
Great.
3-0.
3-0. That's what Alex said, I think, on the preview. Sai, what do you think?
No, it was me. Maybe I haven't listened to the preview, but I think he thought we were going to win on the one we were saying the day.
Oh, well, he changed his mind. You managed to persuade him. Brought him over to the dark side. Sai?
I think the Europa League could have an impact, and it gives us a chance. If Bruce puts his best team out, we could nick something. They'll be focusing probably solely on that European game. They'll probably rest players. They'll probably give us every chance to win the game, which normally means we'll lose. So yeah, I've just talked myself into we're going to get battered. Ben, you're right. There's no way.
They'll still turn up better prepared for the game than we will.
Yeah.
Even with all that distraction and everything else going on. And that was the point. I'm sure every time we've gone to an Arsenal game where we've thought we've got a chance here, they're rubbish. They always bat away.
The annoying thing is that we might get a draw. I'm just about to see us getting a draw, and then Bruce will laud that as an excellent result against Arsenal 12th or something at the minute. You know, like, it's not even a good result if we draw, especially when they've played in Europe 2 nights ago. So, but yeah, a draw is probably on the cards. I don't think we'll win, and I think it's more likely we'll lose, as we do most weeks.
Great. I'm going to say 2-1 to Newcastle. So just to give, to try and balance, although I can't balance because there's 3 of us. Right then, we'll leave it there. Fingers crossed for Sunday. We'll be back. I think we're recording the free podcast on Monday because it's a bank holiday. So everybody watching or listening after the fact, please stay safe, enjoy your weekends responsibly, and enjoy the game. And we will be back with all of our usual content next week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.